Assistants and teams, expanding the brokerage while maintaining control. As we continue building from financial compliance and reporting, we now move into a critical operational area that directly impacts daily brokerage activity: assistants and teams. This section ties everything we have discussed so far together: supervision, agency, documentation, and risk management. The more a brokerage grows, the more it relies on assistants and team structures. However, growth without control creates exposure. Assistants and teams are powerful tools for efficiency, scalability, and client service. But from a regulatory standpoint, they also create one of the highest risk areas for brokers, if not properly supervised. Under AAC R4281103, the designated broker remains responsible for all actions performed under the brokerage, including those of assistants and team members. In 2026, ADRI has made it clear that team structures do not reduce broker responsibility. They increase the need for clear policies, training, and oversight. Example: a high-producing team uses multiple assistants to manage listings, client communication, and transaction coordination. If those assistants are not properly trained or are performing tasks outside their scope, the broker, not the assistant, faces potential disciplinary action. This is where your policy manual becomes essential. It must clearly define roles, responsibilities, and limitations for assistants and teams. Substantive policy statement: unlicensed assistants. One of the most important regulatory frameworks in this area is ADRI's guidance on unlicensed assistants, reinforced through substantive policy statements and the Commissioner's standards. Unlicensed assistants may perform administrative and clerical tasks, but they cannot perform activities that require a real estate license. This distinction is critical. The moment an unlicensed assistant crosses into activities that involve negotiation, representation, or interpretation of contracts, they are engaging in unlicensed activity, which is a violation under ARS, paragraph 32(2122), and may trigger disciplinary action under ARS, paragraph 32(2153). Permitted activities for unlicensed assistants include scheduling appointments, managing files and documents, entering data into MLS with supervision, coordinating inspections and closings. Prohibited activities include showing property, discussing price or terms, negotiating contracts, providing advice to clients. Example: an unlicensed assistant calls a buyer and explains contract terms or suggests an offer strategy. This crosses the line into licensed activity and creates liability for both the assistant and the broker. In 2026, this area has become even more complex with the use of AI and automated communication tools. If an assistant or system is communicating with clients in a way that could be interpreted as providing advice, the broker must ensure proper oversight and control. Association membership: who can join and why it matters. Another often overlooked aspect of assistants and teams is association membership. In Arizona, access to MLS systems and Realtor R associations is typically limited to licensed individuals or those authorized under specific categories. Unlicensed assistants may, in some cases, have limited access to MLS systems, but this access must be supervised and used strictly for administrative purposes. Brokers must ensure that any access granted does not allow assistants to perform activities that require a license. Example: an assistant with MLS access inputs listing data, but also begins responding to agent inquiries about pricing or availability. This creates a compliance issue because the assistant is now engaging in communication that may be considered licensed activity. Brokers should establish clear policies regarding MLS access, login credentials, and usage limitations to prevent unauthorized activity. Broker signature requirements, control, and accountability. As we bring this section together, we must address one of the most important control mechanisms within a brokerage: the broker's signature. Certain documents and actions require broker approval or signature to ensure compliance, accuracy, and accountability. This is especially important in larger brokerages where delegation is common. Under AAC R4281103, brokers may delegate tasks, but they cannot delegate responsibility. This means that even if an assistant or team member prepares documents, the broker must ensure that those documents meet all legal and regulatory requirements. Example: a transaction coordinator prepares a contract addendum, but it is submitted without proper broker review. If the document contains errors or omissions, the broker may be held responsible for failing to supervise and review the transaction. In 2026, best practices include clearly defining which documents require broker review, Establishing approval workflows within transaction management systems. Maintaining audit trails for all approvals and signatures. How this section connects forward. Assistants and teams are the engine of many successful brokerages, but they must operate within clearly defined boundaries. This section reinforces a central theme of this course. Growth must be supported by structure. As we move into the next section, we will continue building on this foundation by exploring trust account management and financial handling procedures, another area where delegation is common, but responsibility always remains with the broker. Online discussion. Why do assistants and teams create increased risk for brokers? Answer: because they expand operations and delegation, which increases the chance of errors or unlicensed activity. The broker remains responsible for all actions under their supervision. What is the key difference between permitted and prohibited activities for unlicensed assistants? Answer: permitted activities are administrative and clerical, while prohibited activities involve representation, negotiation, or advising clients. Why is broker oversight still required even when tasks are delegated? Answer: because responsibility cannot be delegated under AAC R4281103. The broker must ensure all activities comply with laws and regulations.